Well, welcome to our sixth podcast here. Joining me is Kacey Forks. I'm Chad Anderson, and we're coming to you from the beautiful hill country in Boerne, Texas. And today's topic is going to be on celebrating wins in education.
Yeah, we made it. We can't believe we're already at the end of the semester, and it's our final podcast episode of the semester. So we'll be moving on. We're super excited. Thanks for joining us. So we're talking about celebrating wins, which is something that is super important to do. I think in any facet of life, and especially in education. So Chad, what would you say are some wins you'd like to celebrate?
So I'm really proud of the fact that I've been able to work with a lot of teachers this year in individual coaching cycles. So I've been able to really kind of target what the teacher wanted to look for. And, teachers were really carrying the weight of certain things around. And I think us working together, me going in to collect the data, and then actually seeing it implemented, but then that weight lifted from that teacher, or actually multiple teachers, was just it was inspiring what you can do as a partner, right? Absolutely. With this, because teachers do so much in the class, like within one period, they also teach. Like they do so many other things, and wear so many different hats. It's exhausting. Absolutely. And so sometimes just finding that little tweak, and that's all it is. And I think that's the feedback that I get. It's like, all I had to do was just tweak this little thing, but it's just another set of eyes on the same situation.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. What about you, Kacey? What are you most proud of this semester?
Well, since this was my first semester here at Boerne High School, I feel like I've really come a long way building relationships with teachers and really getting to know them and feeling comfortable and getting into a spot where, kind of like you. And I've been in classrooms and I've helped teachers as well, but I feel like now I'm really in a position where I know them and they trust me and feel more comfortable, and so now I've really kind of set myself up to get in position like you are, in those coaching cycles and do those things as well. So I think we've done a lot of great things with our PLC this year too. We listened to teachers and made some adjustments and did some things, and I think that that's been really good as well. We've got some changes coming, so that's exciting. So yeah. No,
yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, we can't do everything that's always asked, but we always try to do some of the things that are asked. At least that's within our control, right? And so, yes, we want to make everything purposeful for our teachers, and student success is the goal. Mm-hmm. So, the teachers are the ones on the ground right there with their kids. So we want to make sure that everything is beneficial for them. Within any meeting or any coaching cycle that we do. So I think that's been a big thing with our podcast that we've really emphasized this year. It starts with relationships. So you build the relationships, and then it truly is a partnership, working for the success of students. So
wait, one more. This is a big success, our podcast.
Our podcast,
This is awesome.
That is awesome, yes. And our focus is really to show how instructional coaches support teachers, and really how teachers support each other, and how we're all really just a community. And all the different guests, it really is interesting because they'll talk and refer to other teachers. And the collaboration that happens there. So it really is, if we are a community working together, it can take some things off of our plates. And that's a great point, Kacey.
Yeah, it was fun to be able to see other teachers talk about things and know I can take that little bit and I can do these things, the little Post-it notes and the color and different ways of marking up your text. That was definitely a win.
Which is great, because that's one of the big points of this. We want it to be able to help other teachers and other people see what this is, and so just getting to hear that. And again, truly we are one large PLC, and we learn the most from each other. So that's awesome. It's good to hear.
Yeah. Well, we do have a couple of special guests today, so we'll let them introduce themselves here in just a minute. But when I think of these two teachers in particular, I think of teachers obviously who they want the best for students, but they're willing to try things if it's going to better students. And they're willing to try it and if they find value in it and it doesn't work the first time, to tweak it until it works, and then it establishes something they can continue to use because students really benefited. And I also appreciate the fact that if they don't like it, they'll just toss it.
Yes.
But that pushing of, you know what, I think I really like this strategy, but it's not working for me quite yet. And so I've noticed that from both of them.
I agree. And I would add to that the idea that neither of you is afraid to try something and knowing that it may not work, and it's okay if it doesn't, because that is where we learn, and that there comes in that tweaking and continuing when you find value in it. But it's fantastic that you're not afraid to try new things and see how it goes, and do that as needed and grow from there.
So kind of just introduce yourselves, kind of tell us, you know, what you're teaching, maybe how many years teaching experience you're bringing with you.
Okay, I am Amy Owen, and I have been teaching now for only 9 years. I'm kind of late to the party, but the ball is rolling and I'm gaining momentum and all of that. I teach English 2, both on level and honors English 2 here at Bernie High School. I've only been at Bernie High School now for my second year. We are here for the same amount of time. We already mentioned that we were each other's first best friend when we came to Bernie High School. I love Susie, and I'm excited to kind of do this with her. So that's me. I love teaching at Bernie. I love the population that we serve here. I love the relationships that I've been able to build here at Bernie High School with my colleagues and with you guys and the administration. I feel like it's the culture here is the best I've ever experienced.
Good.
Yeah.
I am Susie Carr, and I teach biology, and so it can be between freshman to senior, and ours is an end of course tested subject, and so some of these PLC techniques and such have a big impact, and they'll have big impact on the scores and ultimately for the campus and the district. And I have been in education for probably 30 years. 10 years of that I was out and did educational software and hardware sales. And then I came back, got my master's, did 10 years or so of grant work and administration, and then this is my 4th year back in the classroom, so I feel like a brand new teacher. And people look at me and think, oh, she's been in there forever, but I feel like a new teacher with it being 4 years. So and you've been lots of help, and again, it's just like you said, one time it was as simple as have the students put their Chromebooks underneath their desk. And it revolutionized things. It's things that, why didn't I see that? And then you were talking about things that work and things that don't work. And I needed a little bit more scaffolding for one class, so we were going to bring in some whiteboards and showing work and some formative assessment. And it didn't work that first period, but it worked the next. And then it started working for other situations. And so that was a big win.
Was there something, I'm sorry, I think I might
No,
have, was there something you changed about it after you saw that first period to make it kind of work for the next period?
Actually, and Chad, you may have been in the room, I think you were, and the students were getting the concepts very quickly, so they didn't feel like they needed that extra write it on the board, and so they were saying, can we just put our answers on our papers? And so we're like, yes, we're coming up with our own solutions. And so then we just tweaked it a bit to use it in certain situations, and we ended up, after just a couple of them showing me, using this as a formative assessment, how that could work.
Great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, that's awesome because like all of our teachers, I mean, you've got 35, 37, maybe more students in the class. So how can I quickly check and see if they're getting this concept, maximize the time that I have with them. And so the whiteboard was a way they can kind of show the work, and then again for them to say, hey, we're getting this, you know.
And when you have a class that has 37 students in it, you can barely walk around the room, and they're saying, well, I'll just write on my desk. No, I need to be able to see.
I need to see it.
So anyway, it's just a small technique that had a big impact, I felt like.
I think also changing the way that they can answer, like using whiteboards, the small whiteboards, they think that's fun.
They do.
You know, it's something different than writing on paper.
Absolutely.
For whatever reason, it makes all the difference to give them just a different tool to use to show their answer. So I also like to implement that. Not all the time, but throw it in there every now and then so it's like...
Some novelty.
Yes, definitely.
I agree, it does. It keeps it interesting for them. I mean, you know, it's something new that's fun for them.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, we're halfway through the year, so we're going to kind of throw out a question, and then y'all just kind of respond, reflect and respond, because we do want to celebrate you as teachers. We've all been working hard. Y'all have been working very hard with your students, and again, you really, like I said, these two teachers, like they really want student success, and they're going to look and see how can my students succeed. So what is something that you want to celebrate, you know, about your students, or strategy or anything that you want to celebrate from the first semester?
Well, when you first started talking and you were like acting like it was the end of the year, I was like, is it the end of the year already? We're done? Oh, did you know that? I didn't know. And so, but no, we're only halfway through. But it is a celebration for sure. I was thinking about that this morning as I was getting ready, how we're halfway through the year, and that's crazy. It's zoomed by, and the next half will zoom by. I guess what I want to celebrate is I love to see, I mean, 10th grade is my favorite grade to teach. Just, I love the growth that I see in them as human beings and as teenagers. A lot of them are starting to drive in the 10th grade. They get their driver's license. And so there's lots going on personally with 10th graders in that age period that they're in. And so I love to see how they develop, like, as a class culture. And I think for me, what I want to celebrate most is just building a class culture where I feel like my students feel safe and they feel like they can have conversations. They know that they can trust that whatever they say, how they answer, whether right or wrong, I'm not going to be like jumping down their throat about anything. A couple of things I do in my classroom to build class culture are we do a Tell Me Something Good day, and it's not any particular day, like it's not every Monday or once every 2 weeks. It's just kind of like I throw it in there as a novelty.
I was going to say, it sounds like you have a lot of novelty.
And it's funny because I mean it's just I play Tell Me Something Good, the song from Chaka Khan, and they write down something that they're happy about on a sticky note and they bring it up to me. But that's not all. Like I take a minute to read their sticky while they're I'm like, no, stay right here. I read their sticky note and I say, let's say it's that they're going to hang out with a friend this weekend. And I'll be like, well, what are you going to do? You know, tell me a little bit more. And so they line up, they wait patiently, and we get it done within that one song. But what that does is it builds like a relationship. Like you said, for you guys as ICs and us as the teaching community, relationships are important because until you know how much someone cares, you don't care how much they know, right, or what they want you to do. So that's one thing, and sometimes I think they don't like it or they're getting tired of it, but sure enough, if I go 2 weeks without doing it, they'll be like, when are we going to do Tell Me Something Good again? You know, so they do like it, and I keep them guessing, like I said, and so that's cool to see the class culture, you know, and I celebrate their birthdays as well. But then they feel like they're in a safe place where they can have conversations about the content, you know. And in English, that's a big part of it, is being able to discuss, being able to have the give and take. Know that I'm not expecting one person to talk, but I'm expecting them all to, like, get in there. And I tell them, hey, if somebody in your group isn't talking, you pull them in. It's your responsibility. So I'm proud of the conversations, I guess, that I'm hearing from my students. And I feel like it's definitely a growth from the beginning of the year to this point of the year to see that.
And I would say, because I really enjoy looking at the Tell Me Something Good, the Post-its when I'm in your room. I think it's fun to just see what the kids have written as well. But it very much has built that trust and that safe space for them, because it's very clear when the kids, we're in your classroom, the kids they're not afraid to say something or be wrong or be vulnerable when they're talking and saying, you know, and so you can tell that it's worked and that what you're doing to build those relationships has really developed your classroom into that safe space for them and a place where they do feel comfortable answering, even if it's not going to be.
Yeah, and I think that it's real important because I also am in a tested subject, and this year English 2 is the focus of the school to get our master's level up.
Yes.
I think that especially as we move into the spring semester where we're going to really start drilling on the STAR strategies,
Right.
that we've built that kind of community in the classroom where they are, you know, ready to learn. They know what's going to happen. They know the expectations.
Yep.
And so I just kind of thought about that, how it kind of works well after the first semester, that they are in a position of feeling like we have a class culture before we really start like hammering in the STAR strategies and stuff. Yeah.
Of course.
Well, and I think if you make yourself vulnerable as well,
Yeah.
and so having been teaching or in education for so many years, when I first started, it was rows. No students talked. They listened to the teacher might lecture half the period, and you just had a little bit of a guided practice, and they had homework, and nowadays it's very, very different. And so I have 4 on-level classes and 2 honors classes, and so I make myself completely vulnerable. So I tell them ahead of time, I had undiagnosed dyslexia, and so we don't say things in this classroom like you're stupid or you're anything, because I'm not stupid, but I struggled all through school until I went to college, and then learned how to study and learn these techniques to help. And so I tell them, I've got dyslexia, and so we're going to, and they'll say, I do too. I've got dyslexia too. And so we almost celebrate wrong answers. We're just like, let's get to the right answer. And that really helped us get to the answer. And giving them choice. And sometimes, because I have that experience of 30 years ago, it's, we don't have any time to talk about the football game or Dickens on Main, or we have no time for that. And so when we do make time for that, and you have a co-teacher in the room, it makes me a little bit nervous, and my class is a whole lot louder than it was, 4 years ago.
Right.
But it's better for the students.
Yeah. Now, to that point, I've noticed being in your classroom, if there's someone makes a mistake or someone answers something wrong, you'll call on another student and say, hey, can you look that up for us? Find out the answer. And so you continue teaching, they look it up, you give them time, you come back to them, and then they share out what that correct answer is.
We do something that, and I pose it as something lazy, and they snatch that up right away. Oh, Ms. Carr, we only have to have 4 words for a definition. And I didn't do any vocabulary last year, and my colleagues did vocabulary tests with every unit. And this unit, I've said this is very vocabulary rich. We're going to have a page. And it can be very cumbersome, but I just sit there and wait and say, okay, you just read a big long definition that I could look at. I don't need that. I need something catchy, and I need something short, and just to associate.
And watching the kids do that in your class has been really cool to see how they take this and then they process it for a second, and then they say, oh, okay, this, you know, or if they're really close, which you're like, okay, and then you kind of help guide them to come up with those words that they can all associate then. And it is cool because I think that helps when they take ownership of something, of those vocabulary words and those definitions, it's going to help them.
Well, and one student, he's the one that would finish things very quickly, so I would usually call on this student in one of my classes, and he'd read these long, elaborate definitions, or whatever we were talking about, and I'd say, okay, explain that to us, and he'd say, I don't know. I have no idea. And so now he has the habit of that, and if somebody else does that, he'll say, No, that's not going to work for us. we need that broken down, and we need that in chunks that we can handle. And so that's been really.
Yeah. So you both have created some very safe spaces for your kids to grow, to, that productive struggle, that it's okay to make a mistake. In fact, that's valued because that's how we learn. So as you think about the growth of your students academically, what are you most proud of to this point? Like they've gotten to this point already, and I'm really proud of my kids for doing that.
I think for me, because we're, stars upon us, and writing is a very difficult thing to teach. As an English teacher, it's probably, I would rather reading all day than writing, just because it's hard to make someone want to write well if they're not inclined to write well, But because we just did our first ECR, and I have looked at their ECRs, and I've looked at we made them do a planning sheet before they ever could type it out.
What is an ECR?
Oh, it's nice question. It's an extended constructed response, so it's like an essay.
Okay.
It's now what the START essay is in English, and so it's paragraph. It has to be structured like an essay. It has to respond to the prompt. They have to give text evidence.
I appreciate that because mine reference that. When they are doing things, they'll say, somebody invariably will say, well, you need to have these steps.
Right. And I love that. It can be cross-curricular.
In a normal lab report.
Yeah. So that's what it is. And that first ECR that we embark on, I'm like, looking around like, okay, what's going to happen? We've gone through all the things. They've seen examples. And I was actually pretty pleased for their first stab at it this year. I know that is highly contributed to the ninth grade, learning that they had in ninth grade here at Bernie High School, which I so appreciate. It's so much easier when you're not starting from scratch and you're not, not trying to build that. And I know in eighth grade too, so I know we're trying to build that vertical alignment here at Bernie High School. But I think that's what I'm most proud of recently is they really tried. I could tell they really took their time and they did a good job. And I love the results. Now, is there work to be done? Yes, there is. But
what is the part that ninth grade is doing to lead up to your sophomores that you were talking about?
Well, they are giving them great learning in grammar and paragraph writing, and they write ECRs as well. So they do that in ninth grade as well. So organizing their essay so that when they come to me, it's not like, what? What are we doing? They know the structure already. So it's just kind of another stepping stone. Yeah. So it makes it easier, definitely.
For us, the content for biology in the past has always just been 7th grade and with a little bit more. And extension and maybe 2 new topics. But basically it is go back to your 7th grade year.
And that's a long time ago.
And that's a long time.
Yeah.
They changed up our TEKs, and so they're gonna have a little bit more exposure when they come to us.
That's good.
So the cross-curricular work there, Susie, for you, that claim, evidence, reasoning, basically is their short constructed response, their shorter essay, and in their extended essay as well. So that is how it does support the science. How have you seen your kids grow this year? In what way are you proud of them?
Something that I faced continuously last year was you didn't teach us that. And in biology, we teach them about facts and theories and practices, and they have to learn a whole new vocabulary to be able to function in that. And I can count on 2 hands how many times they've said we didn't learn that, because I think I've told them and tried to prepare them that you have the tools to apply to these scenarios, because biology is learning that and then being able to navigate the scenarios. So you have to know the vocabulary to be able to get through, and students, I feel like, are taking ownership of that more.
Okay.
And another thing is that student ownership, because and this has the potential of sounding harsh, but I said to my honors students, I didn't pick for you to be in honors. This is a choice you made.
Mm-hmm.
And you're coming into a school that has a reputation. And so I tell them all the time, when I taught at other schools, if a Bernie bus drove up, it didn't matter if it was athletics or academics, you were going to lose. It just was, it was just how bad was the whipping going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that takes a long time to build up, doesn't take long to crash down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your responsibility. This is your school.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the majority of them are, and so I'm real proud of that. And then self-monitoring, like I was saying about my student that says, oh no, that's not going to work. We're going to need you to synthesize that and give it to us in smaller chunks.
Yeah.
I love that.
And it sounds like you guys have some incredible successes. I mean, as we knew you would. Have you thought about some ways to celebrate those successes with your students?
Well, I feel like, one grand celebration is not the thing, but I feel like I have an ongoing way of celebrating their successes,
Yes, absolutely.
Like, for instance, this week, because I feel like the 3 weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas is like the hardest week to teach. Because we just came back from Thanksgiving. We have 3 weeks, and the last week is final, so you really just have 2 weeks, And so I've tried to give them lighthearted, fun things to do at the beginning of every class, which I have also said, this could work as like if you need that extra point to get you to the next level, to encourage them to do it, because they're like, is this a grade?
Right.
But it's not about a grade. It's about having fun and celebrating. We are at the end of the semester, and so let's take a breather. Let's enjoy the season, but now let's get to work too. So that's taking a little bit of time to kind of like just rest in knowing that we've done a lot of work already. I think it's important to let them know that, hey, every time you walk into the classroom, I'm not going to be like, get out your journal, let's get to writing. And so it's more of a relaxed time right now, which I feel like is the celebration a little bit, as we're in a season that can be fun. And honestly, I feel like high school students need to have fun in classes too.
They do.
And even honors students, I tell my honors kids, I know you're honors kids, but I want you to also have a few creative, fun things to do. It's not all about let's, work our little heads, the whole time that you're in the classroom.
And that mental break can go a long way.
Yes.
Just a little bit of a break to then get back into.
Yeah. Well, research shows you actually maximize your time by those, if we call them a brain break or just having fun, the culture, like you actually end up maximizing the academic time that you have while you're in there. So, I think that's really good. Susie, what about you?
I have about that too is and this is just the little celebrations, but with our DCAs, which are the district common assessments that the district prepares and our students take, I've utilized the poster maker, and so on those DCAs I put the students that have mastered. And so then I make a poster of that, and then they can sign it. And I show every period all day, post it in Google Classroom, and so students are looking and going, oh, Chad got masters, and Kacey got masters. That's cool, and
they get
noticed. Really cool.
Recognized. They get recognized for that. I think that's cool. I love that you do that.
Yeah, it is good. I know. It is important to let them know they're doing, because we want them. We've got work to do, but man, I am really proud of you right now. And I know it's like with teachers. I hope y'all feel it. We appreciate you. We value you, the work that you do, and we see it. And it's not easy. And so and we're proud. We're just really proud, and that's part of the podcast is we're able to showcase our awesome teachers that we have. that we get to be a part of
Yes.
in this. And so for your students, that's also very important. Just, hey, you know what? I'm proud of you. We're up to this point, but we're going to have to work.
And ours,
But-
see, we don't have any break. We're doing
Yeah.
genetics right now. And so when Kacey said something about the podcast, she was saying, I said, what is the topic? And she said celebrations. And I was saying, I don't have any celebrations. Or my celebrations look a whole lot different than somebody else's celebrations. Because as you know, women, we need data to drive instruction. And so data shows us things. And so some of mine have been those students that were not successful in any shape or form in 8th grade, and then had some of those students bump up and maybe make a 34 on a DCA. But a 34 is passing for STAR for biology. And that is
A
growth.
celebration.
And
Yeah.
that
It
is a
is.
student that is destined for falling through the cracks. And they're
Yeah.
it's hard to fall through the cracks, I'm sure, in your room, and it's hard to do that in mine.
Yes.
And it's going to be tutoring, it's going to be, and another thing with the celebration is I'm constantly contacting parents and telling them, your child did this, your
Yeah.
child is
Yeah. And
managing the Chromebook card, or your
Yeah.
child made 100 on the last
Nice.
DCA.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, both of you do such a good job recognizing all of your kids for who they are, where they are, how they're growing. You know where they are and what they need help with. You know, I mean, you really do. And that the data, qualitative or quantitative, both. You know if it's something that we can measure on a DCA or an ECR or something we're looking at, or just in general in class, the way that they are. And you two both do a fantastic job of that, and really should be proud of that.
Yeah, and I think we scheduled this topic for this time of year for a specific reason, because it is a hard time, not just for kids, it's a hard time for us as teachers, right? And teachers are the most critical about themselves. And so kind of like what you just said, Susie's kind of thinking, well, what do I have to celebrate? Well, we want to show you have a lot to celebrate, taking a step to reflect. Wow, look where I had him in August and where I am now.
And exactly what you're saying is, I'll tell my students, pat yourself on the back. Now just stop for 1 second, and I'm going to rattle off a sentence, and you see if you would have known what this was in the beginning of the year. No, you didn't have the vocabulary, you didn't have the experiences, and so.
I love that Susie said she was thinking, I don't know what I have to celebrate. I felt the same way. I'm like, what am I going to talk about in there? But I was just thinking, when we think of celebration, we think it has to be something vast and something huge. But I just thought of one thing. I mean, like when I'm grading something, if somebody has done a really good job, like great attention to detail, like just amazing work, I like to write notes on their Google form or on a paper form and say, thank you for always paying attention to detail. You did an awesome job. I love reading your work. And I just did that over the weekend, and I saw a message from one of my students this morning. She goes, wow, thank you. That's such a compliment. Because a lot of times the good students, we just expect that from them, right? And we don't give them the kudos maybe that we should. It's like, yeah, they always do this. They always do great work. But I think it's important to throw in a little personal comment sometimes. And for the lower level ones that are actually, you can tell they've tried harder than they usually do. Hey, I appreciate that. I see that you're doing this. And those types of celebrations I think are important as well.
Very much so.
You bring that up, and I had an experience this past fall. I was able to go back to West Virginia. I want to give a shout out to my boys in Teays Valley, West Virginia. But I've been teaching for 30 years as well. And to your point, what reminded me of this was the notes, how you're writing. And the boys that I coached and taught, they remembered everything. And they were telling me things that I said to them, and fortunately it was all positive. I tend to remember some of the, but it was, but to that point, that goes so far that in the moment, I didn't realize the impact, but how they are turning it around with the groups that they're leading and using some of the same things and some of the strategies. Like, I just want to encourage you, like, that goes so far, it has an impact you don't even realize, and it may be, in this case, it was about 17 years down the road, and I was able to run into them again. So it is huge. You have such an opportunity to impact the next generation.
Yeah.
So I think y'all have built a lot of strong momentum going into second semester.
We have a second semester.
But we do have a nice break before that.
We do have a nice break.
True.
But we do want to, just with your momentum, if you can think of something now or just plant that seed for how we can support you, because we will be getting into the, for us, the accountability phase of the second semester. So is there a way that Kacey and I can support y'all within your...
I'm not sure if this is what you're looking for or not, but I was looking at data and frequency tables and things like that this weekend, and I thought I really need to be, and help me with the word, where you're not scaffolding, but when you're bringing in old content, looping in some of these things that are, first of all, are going to be on their semester exam.
Okay.
And for biology, the hardest, the most tested is the first semester. And so according to our planning guide, we went through the most important phase too quickly. And so that looping is going to be really important for them to be successful in the semester exam and then on their STAR test. So I'm going to need to, even though we have this heavy content, to loop in.
Okay.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, there are some good strategies that won't take much of your time. It basically can just be kind of a warm-up that you can continue on with your new material, but bring things...
And hold them accountable. Because the point of this is that looping in is doing it in a way that holds them accountable. Because if I just put a bell ringer up, then they're going to say, what'd you get, what'd you get, what'd you get, and all you have to do is grade one paper and you know what all of them are. And so some accountability and...
All right, we will follow up. Yes, sure. 100%.
I would say just keep being the ever-present sounding boards that you are. I appreciate y'all for that. I mean, I've been in my classroom going, this didn't work. Like, what are we going to do, Chad? What are we going to do, Kacey? Like, how can I tweak this? What can I do? And you guys are the best at that. So I would say keep doing what you're doing and being there. And I know. And I know
the fresh set of eyes. The fresh set of eyes.
Yeah, the fresh set of eyes, for sure. That's helpful. And I mean, just the support that you show us as teachers here at Bernie is just like crazy good. So just keep being who you are.
Appreciate that. We appreciate y'all and all the work that you're doing with your students. We love working with you, partnering with you.
I feel like this is a mutual admiration society.
Yeah, it is.
And it's so great because you know what it's like to be in this position, and lots of times it doesn't take any time at all when people move to different positions for them to forget what it was like in the classroom. And that one student that comes late every single day, and you have to stop what you're doing and go correct your attendance and keep going and juggling all the balls at the same time. So you know how that is. And when things fall through, or you are patient with us about that. So I appreciate it a whole lot.
Well,
we appreciate you guys.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, this concludes our first semester of podcast. Stay tuned for next semester. We do want to give a special shout out and thanks to our AAVTC students and Coach Eisenberg. They've done an awesome job editing, setting all this up for us this semester. We're looking forward to working with y'all again next semester. And we just want to thank Amy and Susie for joining us today. And
thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see y'all in 2025.
Bye.